Hey, what's up you guys? Nick here. And last week we talked about the summer of training that turned me into a pro runner. But that wasn't what turned me into the Olympian that you guys know me as today. In fact, when I signed my first pro deal, it was only a 2-year deal, and it was designed to get me from 2006 when I signed it to the 2008 Olympic trials, where I would have a shot at becoming an Olympian. Now, in America, we have many people with the Olympic standard, so we have to narrow them down. You know, the fastest Americans have to be narrowed down to the top 3 in each event. It's a grueling process. It's cutthroat. There's no room for errors, but it ultimately is how we select our team. So in the men's 800, which we're about to watch the final, they selected the fastest men in America. And through a process of 3 rounds, they narrowed them down from a group, I want to say 40 or 50, down to 24 of the fastest that were run through 3 heats. Maybe it was 2 heats, 16, I can't remember. It was a long time ago for this old guy. But they ultimately narrowed it down to the 8 fastest on the day. And then in the 3rd round, they ran the 8 fastest Americans. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Top 3 across the line, those are your Olympians. It's cutthroat. Like I said, if you get tripped, if you wake up and you're sick, if you get, maybe you roll an ankle in the warm-up, sorry, wait 4 more years. That's the kind of pressure I was dealing with as I entered these Olympic trials. I knew that at the age of 24, this was likely my best shot to become an Olympian. All the sacrifice, all the hard work, the decade of work I'd put in came down to this minute and 40 some seconds. I don't want to give too much away. We're going to watch scenes of this. I'm going to tell you the tactics that I was using, what was going through my brain in lead up to it, and then ultimately the feelings that I felt when I crossed that line in first place and knew that I had made an Olympic team and was going to become an Olympian. So, you know, I've talked a little bit about the pressure. And going into this meet, even though I dealt with NCAA championship state titles, and racing at this level before in USA championships, nothing compared to the amount of pressure I was feeling going into this race. In fact, about a month out, I was really struggling. I wasn't sleeping well. I was having trouble eating. And I recognized that I was kind of spiraling downward, allowing my nervousness and my emotions to kind of defeat me before I gave my competitors a chance to defeat me. And I recognized I needed to get control of my emotions. We talk about distance running being a game that's not just physical, but also mental. Well, this was me losing the mental game before the race had even gone off. And I called a mentor of mine. I've mentioned his name before. His name's Kelly Sullivan. He's the guy that recruited me to come out to Oregon when I was just 18. Brilliant man. I said, Coach Kelly, I'm losing it over here. I can't sleep. I can't eat. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to show up on the day and make the team, even though I'm one of the favorites to make it. And he said, Nick, what you've got to remember is that in championship settings, oftentimes the cream rises to the top, is the analogy he used. He said, for some reason, there are athletes that when the going gets tough, when the chips are on the table, they are the ones that perform better, actually. In a championship scenario, you know, gamers game up. And he said, whether it's at the state level in Idaho, whether it was at the NCAA level, he said, you have proven that you're the kind of athlete that rises to the occasion. They get so excited about the championship setting that you rise to the level of the competition. And hearing him say that, a guy who had coached, you know, professional athletes before, had coached Olympians before, it put my fears at ease, and I was able to sleep again, and I was able to train. And I just kind of kept telling myself, don't waste the opportunity. Instead of dreading the nervousness, but you know, I've said this before, get excited for the opportunity. And that's the mentality I took with myself into these championships. So as they were introducing me, they introduced me here as the 2007 US Indoor Champion, which at the time was probably the biggest accolade I had, even though I'd won pre-classic in 2007. The 2007 US Indoor title was probably the biggest accolade I'd had. So I would say I wasn't the favorite to win this race. I think Kadivas Robinson was probably the favorite to win as the defending US champion. But I certainly was, you know, I think I was expected to make the team, which in some ways added to my level of nervousness and anticipation, that I wanted to prove people right, that I could you know, get through these rounds and ultimately become an Olympian. I'm going to go ahead and press the play button here. You can see the look on my face. I'm nervous. I say hi to the crowd. It is my home crowd. This is University of Oregon Hayward Field, and this is where I live. This is where I had trained for 2 years. And I think that having the home crowd advantage really played into my feeling of comfort. You know, warming up where I had warmed up, knowing that this crowd was largely Oregon-based and wanted to see me do well. I wanted to put on a show for them. Now, I know that at this point in my career, I'd raced all of these people before. I knew how many of them were going to run, and I knew that it was likely that the defending Olympic trials champion, Jonathan Johnson, was going to go out hard, and Cadivas Robinson, the defending U.S. outdoor title holder, I thought he was going to go out hard too. I'm a sit-and kicker. You guys know that. My plan was to just run my own race and ultimately sit on these leaders and outkick them for my first title. Outdoors. And you're going to see that as this race opens up. The gun goes off and we get out hard. I mean, there's just so much on the line here. And the adrenaline, the excitement, it's easy to get carried away. And I kept telling myself, don't get carried away, run your own race. So as we hit the backstretch here for the first time, we break, and it's unfolding just exactly the way I expected it to. The sprinters are out front, and the sit-and kickers, myself and Andrew Weeding, were in the back. Now, we come through the 200 quickly, right? 24 low for the leaders. Andrew Weeding and I are in the back. Andrew is a sophomore at the University of Oregon at this point. He and I are in the back. We love to sit and kick, and we're 24 high at 200 meters. The race this fast, I would have expected it to string out more. You know, even though here at 300 meters in, I'm on the back rail, I'm not worried because I expect it to continue to string out, but it does the exact opposite. It actually kind of condenses. And that makes me a little bit nervous given where I'm at in the race. But there's still a ton of race to be run, and so I'm just taking a deep breath and trying to see, okay, what do we split the 400 at? 400 comes, the leaders are at 50.3, and because it's gone from being strung out over 10 meters to being condensed to about 3 or 4 meters, I'm pretty close to that. I'm probably about 50.5, which if you've seen some of my other race recaps, is kind of my favorite first lap split. So I know that physiologically, I'm right where I want to be, but tactics-wise, I am in the worst possible position. I'm going to pause it right here. With 350 meters to go, I'm in 7th place, buried on the rail. There is nowhere I can go. You know, if I wanted to move up onto the leader's shoulder, it's impossible. I would have to go back behind Andrew Weeding, press the brakes, resurge. It's not an option at this level. You get one big move in the 800, and I can't choose that here because I'm buried in the pack. When I mentioned how I won my world silver medal in Moscow 2013, I talked about that pole position, about the person on the outside shoulder of the leader. That is the person that controls the race. In this case, I want to say it's Jonathan Johnson. He's controlling this race right now. He's got Lopez Lamong off his shoulder. He's got Katie out front. He's controlling this race. I, in 7th place, buried on the rail, am not controlling this race. I'm really going for a ride. It's a dangerous, dangerous place to be in. And it shows just, you know, one, how comfortable I was being in a pack because I didn't panic here. I had been buried in packs before. It wasn't that big a deal. But it's also risky. Here down the backstretch, you see I want to get around people. I want to start making that move. But as I come into the pack of people, I'm walking myself into a wall. You know, 600 meters, 116.5. I'm buried on that rail, and there's nowhere for me to go. If you look at the top 3 runners right here, you've got Cadivas Robinson, the favorite out front. You've got Lopez Lamong in 2nd. And now in 3rd place, you've got Dwayne Solomon, the young, at the time, the very young athlete, talented athlete from USC. And I am nowhere to be seen. If I'm a betting man at this point, if you showed me this still that we're looking at right now, I would have bet money that your 3 Olympians would be Katie, Lopez Lamong and, Katie, Lopez Lamong, and Dwayne Solomon. Because the rest of us are just, we're not even in the race right now. But you'll see, I'm going to press play here. I want you to watch this move. I've been patient on the rail for 650 meters, and in my mind, I still remember it crystal clear. I said, be patient, be patient, be patient. A gap will form. A gap will form. It has to. And sure enough, you'll see it's only about 6 inches, maybe 12 inches of space, but I'm able to go from the rail to right in front of Jonathan Johnson, just enough space to break free from that prison that I was in and get up into lane 2. And now I hit the turbo, and once I have a lane, once I'm in lane 2 on the outside of Dwayne Solomon's shoulders here, then it's just the feeling, I just said, I want to show the crowd what I've been working on for the last 2 years, or the last 10 years. I want to put on a show. And I start winding up my kick. I move from 5th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd. Now I use that slingshot technique I've been talking about, and with 100 meters to go, literally like playing a video game and just pressing turbo as hard as you can. Or another analogy we like to use, I was pulling back on the trigger of a gun. I'm pulling back on the trigger, pulling back, but not firing the bullet, just pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. And then with 100 meters to go, I give it everything and I release that bullet from the chamber. I am that bullet in that analogy, and I dump everything I have, every ounce of energy into that last 100 meters. And you'll see here, I'm actually able to put on about 5 yards between second place and the rest of the pack. I really thought to myself, leave everything you have on the track right now, because if you don't, the young, sit-and kicker Andrew Weeding might come and get you. And that's actually true to form. In the last 20 to 30 meters, the crowd was deafening. I mean, people who've been to decades worth of races at Hayward Field tell me it has never been louder than it was in this moment. And I could feel that energy. I could feel the crowd building. And I kept thinking to myself in the back of my head, oh my God, Andrew's going to pass me. Andrew's going to steal my moment because he's such a great kicker. And I didn't want to look over my shoulder and waste the focus that I had on that finish line. So I just focused on the finish line, threw my shoulder forward to give myself the best possible chance of not getting out kicked. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I was actually, solidly in first, but I wanted to do everything humanly possible to run through that line. And then I knew that if I did that, no matter what happened, I could be proud with what I had done that day. Fortunately, it ended up putting me in first place. I threw my biceps up. I knew that I had become an Olympian in that moment. And I saw the time as well and knew that I had run 1:44.12, which was actually almost a full half-second personal best for me. I turn around and I give Andrew Weeding a big hug because I know that he's second, so he's punched his ticket. Now we're trying to figure out who is the third place finisher, who is going to be on that ticket, on that trip to Beijing with us. And you'll see the look of surprise on my face as I look up at the board and the names start coming down. I realize it's my good friend and training partner, Christian Smith, who is actually, he dives across the line to edge out Kadivas Robinson by 1/100th of a second. That's what I keep saying to you guys. 1, run through the line. And 2, leave it all on the track. It's not over until 800.0 meters. Christian Smith knew that. He made a brilliant move on the inside of the rail and dove, left everything on that track, and he was rewarded with a spot on the Olympic team. Now this race is called the Oregon Sweep for a reason. I was first, Andrew was second, Christian was third. We all lived and trained in Eugene, Oregon, and the crowd knew it and they responded, accordingly. Just a couple quick things from kind of a behind-the-scenes look. As I went to celebrate this moment with the crowd, the first person I saw was Sam Lepre, my best friend, mentor, and my business partner at Rungum. I've known Sam for nearly 20 years now, and he is arguably the most influential person outside of my immediate family in my life. And going back and seeing this moment, it's so appropriate that he was the first person that I saw. Then also, my mom, with tears streaming down her face, comes running down to the fence so that she can see me. The security guards actually tried to hold her back, and she said, "No, I have to see my boy." And I was so tired that I had a hard time jumping over the fence to see her. I'll play that for you guys real quick right here. And then from that point on, I got back over the fence barely and just went around in it. I think it took us almost 30 minutes to make the whole victory lap around Hayward Field because there were so many friends and family and fans in the stands, and I wanted to take a picture and say hi to every single one of them. I'll pause there. I just want you guys to know I'm asked a lot. Maybe one of the questions I'm asked the most. Of all the races I ran in 20 years of competitive running, from middle school all the way up to retirement, what's the one race I'm most proud of? It's this one. It's not 2012 where I ran my fastest in the Olympic final. It's not even my world silver medal. This is the race that I am most proud of in my entire career for one reason. I overcame all my doubts, my self-doubt, my fear, my nervousness. I responded to all of that, and as Kelly Sullivan said, earlier in this video, I rose to the occasion. The cream rose to the top. I'm most proud of my younger self for dealing with all of the obstacles, and if you've read my book, you know there were a lot of other obstacles that went into making this moment. I'm proud of myself for rising to the occasion and punching my ticket in the biggest moment of my life, becoming an Olympian. So the other time that I had a big challenge like this was the 2012 Olympic trials. And I had really kind of worked myself into a corner for that one. That is next Thursday's video. We're going to do the same thing that we did today, an Olympic trials race recap. But in 1 week's time, we'll actually talk about the 2012 Olympic trials final, which was a crazy, crazy race. You're not going to want to miss it. Hit the subscribe button. Please turn on notifications. I really appreciate you guys. Lots more race recaps coming very soon. See you next week.